Welcome back, True Seeker. I want to make sure everyone hears this clip of Tucker Carlson, a CIA plant, talking to Professor Jiang about how we need a new world order. And of course, Professor Jiang graduated from Yale like the Bushes. Remember that first Bush president, number 41, he called for a new world order on September 11th, 1990, 11 years to the day of the World Trade Centers coming down while his son was the president. But yes, Professor Jiang called for a new world order while being interviewed by CIA plant Tucker Carlson, someone who spent 20 years on TV demonizing anyone who questioned the events of 9/11, one of the most obvious and transparent lies in history. Such an obvious lie where everyone was made fun of who saw through it, and by the likes of people like Tucker Carlson. And it's sad to think that so many people who are just now waking up think Tucker Carlson's some kind of truth teller. This guy's a scumbag piece of shit. And as for Professor Jiang, again, he's what China's known for, ripping off other people. And he's getting millions of views, stealing the work of others, bringing nothing new to the table, putting out a lot of disinformation along with some truth. But again, I want you to think about that in light of what YouTube is. A very anti-American platform, and if you ever go to their headquarters, you'll see pretty much no Americans work there, including the security. It looks a lot more like Professor Jiang and his people. So let's listen to what these two controlled opposition have proposed for the world. And I'm going to put this at 1.25 speed to move through it a little more quickly.
If you were the commander-in-chief of the United States, what would you do at this point, as of today?
Commander-in-chief meaning Donald Trump?
Yeah, you get
The Communist Party high school teacher wasn't quite sure on what commander-in-chief meant, and that's because he's not an American.
to make the decisions. What does America do next? If it's acting in its own interest, if it's trying to preserve its power and wealth at this point, what does it do?
Well, first of all, I would acknowledge that all these events are interconnected, right? So this trade war with China, this war in Ukraine, this war in the Middle East, it's all interconnected because the American empire is too overstretched and it has its fingers on everything. And so it allows its enemies to provoke it into these never-ending wars. So what I would do is basically sit down everyone, okay, including Russia, China, Iran, and say, it's time for a new world order where we are partners in this relationship. Right? Before America was the hegemon, before the US dollar was the world reserve currency. But now what we want to do is open a dialogue where everyone is respected, where America is no longer the bully, but a willing partner in creating a new economic order that benefits everyone and not just a few.
I think that's the wisest possible advice and probably the only path that preserves civilization. But the one country standing in the way of that is Israel, which is the only beneficiary of this war, as you just said. I think that's true. Can you think of another beneficiary other than Israel of this war?
Of course. The military-industrial complex, big oil. What he said about all of these events happening in the world being connected, that's absolutely true. Again, the war in Ukraine has the Jesuit fingerprints all over it. The war in Israel has the Jesuit fingerprints all over it. This country, this world is run by the Jesuits who pride themselves on being the driving force of globalism. One world order. Again, the number that's on all these rituals is 201. Like the two towers, the twin towers became zero before they became one. Like the first Jesuit university in this nation, its motto is both into one, Georgetown. Yeah. Young does touch on the Jesuits, but he mixes in everything he says with so much bullshit and so much confusion. And also Jiang's message is America's going down. America's going to get beat. America's going to lose. And realize all of that is by design. All these empires, they pass the torch from one land to the next, but the same ruling class, which I would say goes back to Babylon, where this whole thing of operating by this numerical code originates from. But yeah, anyway, it is just maddening watching people like this become the face of the truth community. Tucker Carlson, one of the biggest liars who lied for 2 straight decades about the most crucial lie in the history of this nation, which is largely responsible for why we are where we are today. And now this Chinese high school teacher getting credit for knocking off everyone else's work. Again, why doesn't Tucker Carlson bring on yours truly, who called out the day that BB came back on Albert Pike's birthday, the one who wrote the letter about 3 world wars to come with the third center on political Zionism? Why doesn't he bring me on, who called the start of the war almost to the day? I said it would start right about the time Yale turned 322 years old. The war started 2 days before Yale turned 322 years old. That was October 9th, 2023, the 322nd birthday of Yale. October 7th, the war began. And yes, Professor Jiang went to Yale and was born in 76, which is interesting. His interview with Tucker Carlson happened while it was the 80th day of the year in his homeland of China. You can see his name in Gematria is 80 and 206, like his YouTube channel was established on 20/6. That's how the cabal operates. And everybody should see through it, because you don't get millions of views per video when you're speaking conspiracy unless you're Professor Jiang of the Communist Party, when the majority of the people who work at social media come from these communist countries like China. And of course, that's why their policies look a lot like these communist countries, where you don't have freedom of speech. You're not allowed to rep the First or Second Amendment. Again, it really all makes sense if you just take a step back and look at things for what they are. And just about him being born in 76, here's the latest. On March 22nd, we have this thing at LaGuardia with 76 people on the Air Canada flight, 41 injured. Our Skull and Bones president's number 41, and his son born on 7/6. Remember when the Georgia Guidestones put up on March 22nd, 322, came down on his 76th birthday on 7/6? Remember when we called Yale to upset Auburn as a 16.5-point underdog, and Auburn had 41 at the half and got stuck on 76 for the game? Again, Professor Jiang hasn't done anything like this in his life, yet somehow he gets all the credit. Please. Tucker Carlson, Jiang, these are frauds, duping the fools, the blind leading the blind. So, yeah, please do wake up. Please see through these people. Please understand that YouTube does not allow people to get 1 million views when they're calling out what's going on. Instead, they get deleted 20 sometimes, like yours truly, and get shadow banned to the bottom of the algorithm, not promoted at the top of the feed. All right, Truth Seeker, we'll leave it there for now. If you think I'm wrong, you let me know why Tucker Carlson's the great truth teller. My guess is if you think that, it's because you recently woke up. You recently woke up. That's why you think that. Again, this man lied about the most important lie in the history of this country for 2 straight decades on TV and served as a cover-up agent for that. And yeah, where'd this guy come from? Out of nowhere? June 20th, 2023? Why's he got all this street cred? You know, yours truly been here the whole time, dropping nothing but truth bombs, putting out books like this that save lives, that told you exactly when their scamdemic was going to end. This book came out in the middle of 2020, said the scamdemic would end as soon as the Year of the Tiger came around, a Chinese thing. Exactly when it did end, right when they transitioned you into the next 201 ritual, Ukraine, just like how they simulated cooties with Event 201, and the only CDCs that participated in Event 201 simulation were China's and the US's. So yeah, these are partnered nations in the New World Order, and they got Jiang here to seemingly mock everybody that has a clue. All right, we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker, and until next time.